Welcome to the Masters of Dirt Hangout. It's a format to highlight people around and in the Masters of Dirt family.
Cool.
So I'm here with the Sheikh,
Yeah.
Amro Kayal, my legendary friend from Gumball. We're sitting in, who would believe it? We're sitting here in
Saudi Arabia, man.
The Khawaja is here, the white guy. And Esh Akhbarak Liyom. What's your news today?
What's happening, Georgie?
Yeah, so we met on Gumball
Yeah,
in 2008.
in 2008 in San Francisco. I'll never forget it. We met in front of the Fairmont Hotel.
Yes.
Yeah, one of those antique hotels or landmark hotels, I should say, in San Francisco. But it was fun, and I come out of the hotel, and I see this 17-year-old kid jumping up and down, as white as a white can be, I guess, running around the Trans Am, the Knight Rider Trans Am.
With the Fuel Girls.
And the Fuel Girls.
And Hasselhoff.
Yeah.
And I see this Sheikh, as Saudi as it gets, with his Lamborghini, with his bodyguard, who turns out to be
my son.
To be your son, Alawi. I was actually 21. I just looked like 17.
Oh, you were 21?
Wallah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Because Alawi was 18. I didn't realize you were older than
Yeah.
Alawi.
So I remember it was a hectic day at the start. There were so many cars.
Yeah.
Julie, the organizer, Max,
Your
Max,
friend.
she was stressing.
Yeah. She always stresses.
But they're not. So Julie and Max, they're not together anymore, correct? Since many years.
Yeah. Well,
But,
yeah.
But is she involved in Gumball still or not?
No.
Okay.
She's
So
not.
for all those who don't know, what is Gumball? And
Okay.
how did you get the idea of doing such a crazy thing like the Gumball?
Well, the concept of Gumball 3000 is not a Maximilian Cooper like exclusive thought. I mean, there have been movies about driving across the United States and driving around the world, and Max built on that, and maybe one of the first people, I'm not sure about his history exactly, that started a driving event, let's say, every year, and they map out a destination. I think he started in '99, and I got involved in 2006, I think. It was my first Gumball, and he did it around the world. And it was brilliant. I mean, we drove across Europe, and we drove in Thailand, 1,000 miles across Europe, 1,000 plus. We went from London to Serbia. Then we put the cars on the Russian transport planes. They shipped
The
them.
Antonovs.
Yeah, the Antonovs. Those things are huge. I mean, I went inside it, and we saw the car layout in there. It's like 2 football fields or something like this. It's so long, and it carries 50 cars, 60 cars, 100 cars, no problem. And that flew to Phuket in Thailand, and we
From
drove
where?
from Serbia. We were in what's the capital? Sarajevo. We flew from Sarajevo we drove from London to Sarajevo, and we got there, and that was one of the craziest receptions ever. Actually, the reception in Hungary was even more insane, and they drove us in. We get to the city hall, parked our cars there. I go in, come out, you don't see the cars from the crowd, because all the cars are really low, they reach to your waist. So I just look, and you don't even see the cars anymore. I'm like, wow. And then they had to, somebody has to walk in front of you, push the crowd out, try to get your car out.
Which car did you
I
have?
had
That you always been driving in your Lamborghini?
Always driving the Lamborghini, the Gallardo. It came out, I think, I bought it 2005, drove it 2006. It's exclusive Gumball miles. I drive it a little bit wherever it ends up, the car, but most of the time it's been ending up in my house in Cannes. So it's parked there.
Do you Do you remember what has been your first car?
My first car. Well, my first car was the Trans Am.
Really, the same
yeah.
as Kit?
Well, not the Kit model. I had when the Kit model came out, I was in college, and I was off. But my first car, I was in high school, 10th grade. So I got a Trans Am because Smokey and the Bandit was the hot movie, right? And he also does a run. He does a beer run, Burt Reynolds, that it's passed now. And he had the black Trans Am. It was a 78, I think, Trans Am, and he had the whole, walkie-talkie things, and Smokey and the Bandit, and he's basically driving from Texas. He's going to Texas from Florida, and he's hauling a truck full of beer. And the Trans Am is to clear out all the police and all this stuff because it has to make it in, I don't know, I forgot, like 26 hours or 30 hours, something like that. And it's a comedy, of course, and he does this run, Burt Reynolds, and so the car became famous, and the whole thing became famous. I tried to get one of these CB radios in my car in Saudi Arabia, but that's like, at the time, that's like you need to. There's no way you're going to bring a CB into Saudi Arabia at the time. And look at where Saudi is now.
Yeah. We will tap into that later. Mashallah. It's a beautiful place. I've been here since a very long time, but let's stay with Gumball because there's so many stories. Have you been driving with that the years where Kim Schmitz was on there? The big German blonde guy that made his fortune?
No. He, I think, did the first 3. It started 99. They did a Russia thing. They did this thing. I went when it was, and I started to hear about them doing it. But I was very, reserved to. The around the world attracted me to drive around the world, and I looked at the route. And they were spending a lot of time in the routes. My feeling towards the end was that most of the attention was going towards the parties and the gatherings. And I like to drive. I mean, the concept of driving across the United States, it's like I have a bucket list. I drove across the United States. I drove across Europe. I drove in China. That was some extensive driving and very difficult as well.
Yeah, I remember when we had Kit, and it's actually one of the show cars of David Hasselhoff. David Hasselhoff's dad had them built 3 or 4 cars in the States at Hollywood Incorporated, and then they shipped it to Europe. And my dad promoted these Night Rider shows, David Hasselhoff and the Night Rockers, and it was crazy. Yeah. But the car was like a Christmas tree. You could plug it in, it would light up, it would move, everything was rusty. So I remember my dad. Thanks Dad, spent 40 grand to renew this whole car to make it drive, and they tore it apart and then put it back together, and then shipped it to San Francisco. And I remember I was unloading the car from the container, and the first thing, bunk, I clip off the the side mirror. The first thing. Go off to a good start. And then we went on the highway, and the car had a key lock, but it wasn't used. It was only you started with a button and the key was in there, but the only thing it could be used for is to lock the steering wheel. So I guess loading the car in Germany, they must have tried to do something with the key, and I go on the 6-lane highway, and I'm like, all right, let's see how this goes, and boom, I'm on the acceleration strap, and I accelerate. I turn my steering wheel, and it goes click, and it clicks in.
And it locks.
It locks in, going left. So I go all over the lanes with the semi, and I realize it quickly. But to get to the key lock, you had to go under the Night Rider dashboard, and I'm like this, and Alhamdulillah, thank God, there was really some guardian angels, because we crossed 6 lanes like this. The semis had to avoid us and stuff, and then I unclicked it, the steering lock, and it clicked in the other direction. And you know these shock moments where you know...
Why is the key not in the thing?
The key is in. Then that's the thing, but it's turned off. So it was a close call. Imagine the rally would have started like this. So from the first day on, we had to fix this car. And then we are...
It's not a good sign on a rally. You know, driving 3,000 miles straight is abusive on a lot of cars. I mean, I've seen a lot of really top brand cars. They don't make the rally. They can't finish it. A lot. And that's why when I totally respected what I guess Audi did to Lamborghini when they bought Lamborghini and they came out with the Gallardo. It was the first model that they really, Audi put their engineering in it, and the car was all-wheel drive. And the cars, you know, 4-wheel drive is nothing, is not existing in Lamborghini before Audi. And then they had the V10 engine, which was a Lamborghini engine, but Audi put the 4-wheel drive system on it, and then they had the flaps as well for shifting. So it was a very reliable car. I mean, I saw SLRs knock out.
I heard Ferraris overheat and stuff in the summer.
Ferraris are a delicate car, you know. You have to know how to drive them, really. I mean, it's like I saw when we were in Bangkok driving. We came on a road going into Bangkok. The right lane was, you know, the passing lane was full of holes, just holes the whole way. And if you wanted to drive fast on that, I mean, the guy, I think, driving a 308 or one of the old, no, it's probably, I'm not sure what model it was. He drove just over 70 miles per hour, or just over 80. Boom, 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 boom. Next thing you know, you have flat tires and busted rims as well, you know, because the wheel gets fractured. Once the wheel is fractured on the car, you have to replace that whole thing, because it's not going to drive.
What did he do?
He's on the side in Bangkok, and then, you know, figure it out. His friends pulled over. I think they were 888 or one of these crews. They rent the cars and they don't care how they drive, but you end up with a busted car somewhere, you know, in Bangkok. Good luck.
Story of my life. So we started in San Francisco, and then David Hasselhoff, my godfather, jumped in the car with us, drove out the city. We took over instant. The first cop stopped us, but with kid you never get a problem. They usually only want pictures. And then we were 4 guys, four or five at some point, I think even 5, doing this 10-hour drive from San Francisco to LA, or it took us 10 hours. No AC in the car. It was hot. And arrived.
Well, hot is relative, you know. For Saudis, we bear the heat, no problem.
True, you're right. I can sign that. But then we went. So we arrived at Hollywood Boulevard, and the car stops working. Wouldn't start. So we had, like, you know, the homeless that have the Iron Man costumes, and we had like Iron Man pushing kids into the, and a few people helping out.
Into the Roosevelt, right?
Pushing kid in front of the Roosevelt Hotel, where of course everyone has arrived already, everyone was at the party, and we had to figure out the mechanic. So it was something with the fuel pump. The guy came and fixed it. Guess how long it held up? Until the next day in San Diego, where it broke again.
Yeah, the fuel pump.
And then we had to go to a classic car thing. They helped us out, and then on the way to Vegas, to that private airport where we loaded the cars to go to China, the car is overheating, not overheating, but like the ventilation or something was on full on. And I was like, it's because it's hot here. It's not gonna be that hot in China. It's what I thought in my 20-year-old mind. I just wanted to go to the Vegas.
Yes,
party.
you should have just left the car in Vegas.
Yeah, I know, but you know, I thought it will be fixed. So then in Vegas, we had these crazy parties. The Kuwaitis threw a president suite party. The first time I've ever seen a president suite.
Wow.
And
That was a show for you, huh?
It was.
You know what I did in Vegas? I slept. All the Gumball scenes, I mean, because I drive. You drive 10 hours, 14 hours. I like to drive, so I'm driving the bulk of the driving, no matter who my co-pilot is. Alawi or some of my friends or my friend Yasser. But I end up driving maybe 2/3 of the way. With Alawi, I think I drove 3/4 of the way. So by the time I get to where I'm going, I'm exhausted. So and it takes me a while to unwind. So you need like an hour, 2 hours, just chilling, and lying down or feet.
I don't know
back.
how a lot of people do it there. They like party and
they party, man. Because if you're in a van or if you're in something else, you're not driving. You can sleep the next day. So yeah, party till 6 in the morning. When it's time to leave, you go in the car, you fall asleep. You wake up 5 hours later.
If you have a designated driver.
Yeah, I have a crazy story with the guys from Famous. Curtis Colomonico.
I met the tattooed guy.
Yeah, and we were in New Mexico. And what year was that? 2009. We were crossing the states, and a Gumball as well. And my co-driver was a friend of mine, and he had to catch a flight. The next day he was leaving. And luckily for him, he figured out that if he doesn't catch the flight from New Mexico, from Albuquerque, because I was saying we'll go to Dallas, and from Dallas, catch your flight and go. He figured out that he'll arrive in Dallas late, so he needs to fly that night from Albuquerque. So I figured, okay. I'm going down into the lobby of the hotel in New Mexico, Albuquerque. It's about 7 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning. Everybody's been partying all night. I just woke up at 6:30. Coming down, the place is trash. People are walking around alcohol. I was like, wow. Okay. So I stepped outside and I saw the New Mexico Albuquerque police department checking out all of our cars. And this girl was hot. She was a police officer. Wow. Stunning. So I'm like, okay. I'm in my total shake outfit with the cape and the headdress and everything. And I go up to her and I start to talk to her and stuff like that. I'm just saying bullshit, really. Not don't pull us over. And where are you guys parked? And give me a tip. Should we speed out? Should we not? And of course she was being, no, don't speed. I got pulled over. The police are very difficult and tough and stuff like that. And then I figured out, okay, now it's time to go see who's my new co-driver, because I'm driving alone. I don't really want to drive alone. And Max all of a sudden walked up and he's like, Amro, your friend left, right? And I'm like, yeah, how did you know that? Because I'm scanning through the crowds looking for, a decent looking woman to come in and sit next to me on this 10-hour drive or something. Boom, he sticks me with Curtis, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, okay, so this is going to be an interesting ride. The guy gets in the car, passes out. So I'm like, okay, and I can smell. He was like, he must have been drinking or something like the night before. Probably, he was. So he's passed out. I did a stop at a gas station, refueled, I'm on the highway, I'm flying, because, I couldn't see a cop in sight. It was one of those interstate highways, straight as an arrow. I could see for maybe hundreds of miles in front of me, just straight. And I figured, let's go. Boom, 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 we're driving. Next thing I know, he starts waking up. He looks outside. He looks at me, and he's like, how fast are we going? And my car's in kilometers, so we're doing about 220 kilometers, 240, something like that. It's fast, very fast, of course. You get busted, you're going to jail for this one, that's for sure. But it's not crazy fast, it's not 300 and 220 is...
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay.
In cars like that,
yeah. So he looks at, how fast are we going? Because things start, you know, they go by very fast. I'm like, I don't know, about, you know, I'm calculating the speed. So 160 is 100 miles. 220 is about, you know, 140. You know, and I push a little bit in downshift, you know, and go up and down. I'm playing, you know, I'm not just holding one speed. So I told him, I don't know, about 160, 140. What? I don't have my seatbelt on? I'm like, well, put your seatbelt on. You've been passed out, you know, for the past 3 hours. We've been doing this speed without your seatbelt. If you feel, you know, comfortable, put your seatbelt on, because we're going to continue at this rate. The guy was quiet the whole trip. I need to go to the bathroom. We pulled over. And I write to him till today, you know, I catch him on Facebook, or I catch him on. He's a skateboarder. He's one of those skateboard guys. Yeah. Intense, though. I seen his clips, and he jumps up all these things. And now he teaches children how to skate, do skateboarding, and he goes to their houses. He brings the portable skateboarding equipment, ramps and stuff, and he sticks it in, and he teaches the 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds. They all got their helmets and stuff. So it's pretty cool what he does. I like that.
Yes, I think that year it was when we did Coast to Coast, right, from LA to Miami.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was hitchhiking that year.
Oh yeah.
I got a big mullet, so I fit in with the American rednecks, and just had a sign "Miami or bust," and then Mo Altani got me in the Rolls Royce Drophead, made the main part, and then I jumped into a RS4 with.
Mo was doing the character of the Sheikh in the Gumball, in the Cannon Run movies. There's Cannon Run movies. You know, the Cannon. Yeah. There's the Cannon Run. The Cannon. It started from the first one, the Gumball. There's a movie called The Gumball Rally.
Okay.
And I think in that movie, no, then in the Cannon Run, first there's Cannon Run 1 and Cannon Run 2 movies. I have them all on CDs. One of them, Jamie Farr, you know the actor?
No.
He's a Lebanese-American actor who does the Sheikh's character, and he drives a Phantom, and he has 4 women in the car, and he goes across, not a Phantom, but the Bentley.
Yeah.
You know, the Rolls Royce. It was a Rolls Royce he drives, but the older models. And he drives across the States, and he's doing all these gimmicks, and he stops at a McDonald's, and so they're doing all the scenes, which I thought was kind of cool, in the Gumball. So
yeah, so I was hitchhiking this year, and then at one party I was with Dwayne Peters. Dwayne Peters is guitarist or singer from US Bombs, and he's like this fully tattooed mega drunk guy. Remember that punk, that old school, like shocking.
Yeah.
Even for me, I was shocked, and I was in the room with Trigger Gum and Dwayne Peters. They had this gun on that army.
They ended up in jail in New Orleans.
They ended up in jail
for the night.
But that night before,
with
Dwayne
Mike Malvern,
Peters, I come in the room. Dwayne Peters is passed out, pissed himself on the bed. There's blood everywhere. Then he weighed like literally, I don't know, he must have cut his hand or something. And then he woke up, he tried to call reception, but the guy was a mess. Like a big heart, but an absolute mess. I mean, you know, if you drink so much that you piss yourself, things are kind of out of control.
But that's Gumball is out of control.
yeah. And this was the 2009 year. And then when we came to China, unloaded kit. The kit still didn't work.
China was 8. 2008.
Yeah, China was 8, exactly.
2009 we crossed the States.
So kit broke down. So we were only 22 teams left out of 120, if you remember.
Yeah.
And then the toll stations in China are as wide as my country. They're huge. Like
10 lanes.
I think more, 25. Like huge. So we were parked all on the right side.
The tolls, yeah.
We had no more phone battery. And then the cars, all going through that one toll thing. gun. Like, shit, what are we doing? And then the Chinese, you know, they're not stupid. So Sinotrans was the company that did most of the car freight. And they knew that something was going to happen. So not 20 minutes later, a guy came with a trailer. Hey, I'm from Sinotrans. You want us to tow your car and you want a driver to drive you? And we're like, yeah.
Great.
It's our only option. So they took the car. Didn't see the car till Beijing. And we had got this Chinese driver. No word of English. Thinking he's Michael Schumacher.
Yeah.
He had those police sounds taking over on the right lane, left, and we were going crazy. And then Mike Malborn, I think his name.
Yeah.
He ended up also in this car with us.
Oh, really?
And it was just a hangover car. We were dead, and we were freaking out on this Chinese guy, but he wouldn't understand. Doesn't matter how you toned your voice. Doesn't matter what you showed him. He wouldn't slow down.
No, he slowed down when I was in the car. I had also a Chinese incident.
But did you join us?
Huh?
In that car?
No. I had because they all drive like that. I don't know what it is. All these taxi cars, they drive like they think they're... And it looked like China was pretty organized driving-wise until we started following the police. We had some nasty stories in China. I mean, the one...
In terms of?
Well, let's see. First, the navigation system was off. I think Gumball, I can't recall if they gave us the routes on GPSs those years or not. I know they did on 1 year, and it just sucked when we were going around the world. But 2008, well, in any case, the group of 20 cars, we got divided into two groups, and one, for me, my method, when I know that you have to follow the police car, I make sure that I'm on his tail. I make sure that I am the number one car following the police car. Because if you lose that police car, you're lost. And it's going to take a while for you to recover from that, like 3 hours, 4 hours, or something like that. And I did it in Phuket, I did it in Bangkok. I mean,
losing it.
No, keeping behind the police car, because car number 10 or car number 7 is not going to make the traffic light that the police car goes through. He's going to have to stop or something. And the rest of the pack is going to try to catch up with car number 7, who is lost because he has a break from the first car, right? So if you and I don't want to take that risk, so I make sure I get on the guy's tail. And I was that, and we went through the thing. But the other guy, the other police guy with the second group in China, he went up the ramp in the wrong direction, in the opposite direction. Did you know that?
What? He took
but
like north or south, or
no, against traffic. He wanted to go against traffic and take the ramp against traffic and drop on the other side so that they can go on the right way, because they got lost. And the guy in the Phantom freaked out, and he said he's not going to do that, and he forced the policeman to turn around and figure out another way to get there. Or they did it. I'm not sure, but I remember this story so well, because I thought to myself, yeah, good thing that you always stay on the policeman's tail.
But the driving in, unfortunately, we were stuck with this driver. It was really a nightmare. It was really one of the most horrible situations in my life, because for 3 days or something, we would need to drive with that guy.
And he kept on driving like yeah, I know how they drive, because on the last day when we were in Beijing and we had the final party in that hotel, I crashed at 12:30 or something. So, and I know Ali was partying all night, because I heard him, come into the room. So it was like around 5ish, and they woke us up at 6 o'clock, 6:30, for our keys. I'm like, why do you need the keys? He's like, well, we have to drive your cars to one of the towns that was before we entered to Beijing for the shipping. And I'm like,
who drove it?
I'm like, who's going to drive my car? And they said, one of the Gumball staff, something like this. And I'm like, yeah, right. He's not driving my car. So I went down and I drove the car from Beijing to the shipping area, which was an hour and a half drive, you know, outside of Beijing. And we drove there, and the Chinese people weren't very happy with Max. I don't know why, but they didn't provide a bus or something to drive us back. And they weren't expecting any of the Gumballers to drive their cars. And I drove my car. And also the police were driving like maniacs, man. In and out of cars and traffic, weaving in and out. And these roads in China, there were 2-lane highways full of traffic. So you either weave with them or you get lost. And a group of the cars got lost, and we got to the shipping area, and we had to wait for like 3 hours for everybody to get there. And they made us leave the cars there, and the idiot said, leave the windows open. And I, like an idiot, I followed instructions, and I left the window open, and they actually shipped the car. I got the car like 3 or 4 months later with the window open the entire time, full of dust and dirt, and I was pissed. And it was a difficult odor to get rid of in the car for just staying open that so long.
So we're back. We just had to get a drink. We have to stay hydrated here in Saudi. Yeah, I just wanted to finish. There's 2 subjects before we finish the Gumball chapter. So Sinotrans ripped me off, and they, you know what I paid to tow the car to Beijing? 8,000 euro. 8,000 euro to tow the car to Beijing, 3,000 to get it back to Hamburg.
Wow.
Can you imagine? So
well,
for the driver and the thing, they completely ripped us off.
I paid $800 to get 2 bags from Shanghai to Beijing. Basically, I had to pay for somebody to fly from Shanghai to Beijing to bring our bags, to bring Alawi's bags. So Alawi was a disaster to travel with. And I told him this is the last time I'm traveling with him because he's such a nightmare, waking up and getting ready. But I mean, he was young now. It's changed. Grown up. The boys have grown up, Georgie. To see you here now, beards.
Yeah, it's great. Well, thank you so much for the hospitality. I can't thank you enough. I'll also get to that later. One thing we have to talk about is North Korea. We went to North Korea.
Yeah.
A lot of people in the world went to North Korea.
Yeah.
Remember when we arrived, that they stripped everything off us, except we had the allowance of having our phone, but there was one guy.
No, they took our phones.
No, the phones.
They did.
Yes, but the cameras we were allowed to have.
Some cameras. Yeah. Some cameras were.
I was allowed to film.
I filmed as well.
And it looked like it just stopped, you know, all the rusty cranes and everything was dark. And then what freaked me out, and you know, I was really mouthy, and it freaked me out that there was four Gumballers, one guy from the state. Remember, they wouldn't leave us. So I'm like, why do you all wear this patch of what Kim Jong-il?
The pin.
The pin. Why do you? This is the pin of our great respect. Yeah. And it was like it was like a recording that you play. Everyone repeated the same thing. Yes.
It
was like
his title. Almost, that's his title.
Almost like a prayer. So our great respected leader, la 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 la.
Our beloved.
Yeah, and then we went to the mass games, the biggest mass choreography in the world, and we were all so tired.
Yeah, at one point we were passing out.
At one point, we were
so jet lagged. Fuck.
Yeah,
it was a hard trip, that one, because we landed in. The thing was, you know, how did they get us in there? I mean, I knew this from Julie. They'd planned this China event for 2 years, and they timed it with the Olympics. And Kim of North Korea plans his event also with the Olympics. He's throwing the mass games are his Olympics, right? In face of the world, look what I can do compared to your, you know, stupid Olympic show. Which, I mean,
Remember the people flying through the air?
The show was just unbelievable.
They were shooting people out of the cannons, and they were flying over that whole
walking in air. He was walking in air, doing steps.
Yeah, he was doing steps, and then he fell in this tiny
in a net. Yes, across the stadium.
One of the biggest stadiums in the world.
The biggest, I think, because it holds 250,000 people. That stadium. The show in front of us. You know how they were bringing all the.
Just in case I wouldn't have woken up. So they were throwing people through the air.
You know, they have in football stadiums, they always do these banner shows. Like they'll put the picture of, I don't know, the president or the emir or something. Or the year, or what the event is. These guys actually had a movie. I mean, their banners were changing so fast, and it was so much. They had 80,000 people. 80,000 people were behind these banners, and there's 100,000 people performing. Can you imagine this? How big this thing is?
Simultaneously, and they were. Wah! Remember, they shouted, and then you heard the noise of the papers or these images they hold up. So. If you guys want to Google it, Mass Games North Korea. I don't know if there's something online about it.
I never posted because I was really worried about this at the time, posting this with North Korea. But one of the Gumballer film crew, he filmed the whole thing. I filmed the whole thing on my Handycam, and
I filmed too.
The secret police kept on coming and nudging me to turn it off, and I turn it off a little bit, and then I turn it back on again, turn it off, turn it on, and leave it on sideways, and because I was going to film this thing. This is one of the most impressive things I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a stadium, 250,000 people. They have so that means you have 100,000 and 100,000 seating in front of you. The entire stadium is empty. They have all of these kids. Apparently, the people who perform in this are children from first grade until 22 or 25. The kids in school, because the guy was explaining this to me, and I'm like, how can you have kids in what about school? And he's like, well, they practice every weekend. They practice 2 hours on the weekends, and when it's time for the show, they'll practice 8 hours a day. So they're off school and they're practicing for the show. And I'm like, well, what if I don't want to practice? I don't feel like doing the show this year. It's like, no, this is our honor. This is our duty. He gives us free education. He gives us free healthcare, free medicine. And I'm like, oh, okay. But okay, what if I'm sick? I'm 5 years old, 6 years old. I'm sick. I'm tired. Not possible. It's the family's honor. I'm like, wow, okay. So this thing is like entrenched in their belief that they're going to repay him back. Or, this guy was saying it also with the pen. The men wore the pen with the picture of Kim on it. And the women had like a flower, looked like a daisy, and the dot in the middle with his picture on it. One of the guys managed to buy one of these pins. I mean, I offered this guy anything for the pin, and he wouldn't buy it. And finally, we went on the plane ride out. We were talking about how they wouldn't sell it, and he said, "You mean this pin?" And he pulled one out. I'm like, how did you get it? He's like, I paid him $500 for this pin. I figured
that is a lot of money for North Korea.
It's a junk thing, man. It's probably worth 1 cent.
But he can probably not even.
I bet you nobody has
can't
one.
Exchange $500 in North Korea anyway, so he probably still has those $500.
I don't know, man. I don't know. There's a lot of under the table stuff going on there for sure. I mean, they drink snake juice or whatever. Did you see those cobras? The snakes in the wine? Or
I was so tired, but it was crazy because the streets were empty. Everything was dark.
8 o'clock.
These huge statues with the hand up like Hitler.
Yeah.
And the propaganda videos in the plane.
Yeah,
It was crazy.
I found it very interesting to see how the Europeaners and the Americans reacted when you went into these type of countries? Because as for me, I mean, from a long time, you surrender your passport when you go into some countries. Like in Egypt, sometimes they'll take your passport, or you give your passport to the hotel people, right? It's not a strange thing that people take your passport. And it's also not a strange thing that you go into a place and this is illegal and this is not, and don't, you know, I mean, if you go into Singapore, you can't bring gum. So, you know, you just don't bring gum, right? But for these Americans, and I actually saw they were terrified. This guy was yellow. He was pale, you know, there was two.
Majera?
Huh?
Was it?
No. The Jackass crew were didn't faze them at all, I think. But the more wealthy Americans that weren't subject to random search, you know, and I started making fun of them because I told them, "Well, you've never been in a random, you've never been randomized before. Well, here it is. Time for your randomization."
It was crazy. And on the bus back, remember, one hotel key was missing, so they didn't want to let us leave.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, they're like, came back, who has a hotel key? Hotel key, we can't miss, we cannot leave. Someone took a hotel key, it was a key card. It was just a key card.
Yeah.
It's a Pyongyang Koreo Tower Hotel, it was called.
What was it?
Well, Koreo Tower Hotel, Pyongyang.
It was a Sheraton, wasn't it? It was
know.
a Sheraton.
Yeah, maybe from the Sheraton group, but the name on the card, because I stole the card.
Oh, it was you.
So they're like, no, we cannot make you leave. You have the card. And they were in the bus, and then they're like, hey, you guys are sure? And no, sorry, no one had it. And I had the card, and I stole this everything.
I stayed up the whole time. I didn't crash. Because we came from.
We went to a bar, right?
What?
Did you
in the bottom of the hotel? Yeah, there was a bar down there, and there was a guy who was filming. Actually, they got the guy. You know, there were secret police with us the whole time.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Yeah.
Even when we were in the. Do you remember the dinner?
Yes.
That soup.
I
didn't eat anything
in detail, but I was.
They brought us like 3 menus, 3 courses. One of them was a soup, and I was so worried there might be dog meat in this. And I'm like, I'm not gonna eat this. So many bones and stuff. Okay, I'm not eating this. Okay, this looks like a cabbage. There's cartilage in this. Okay, I'm not gonna eat that either. And then I found something like it was like a salad or something. And I just ate salad the whole time. Because when we went up to the hotel room has 2 beds. I think this was furnished maybe in the, I would say 50s. They had a coffee maker that was made out of plastic that had melted. The plastic melted, so it was a twisted thing. It had a socket, but there was no cord for you to plug the thing in. The towel was like paper thin. I could see through the towel. There's only this one towel. So it was obviously a hotel that doesn't get used. Right?
I took everything, the soap,
Oh, you did, huh?
The chopsticks,
I took
there's the needle thing, you know, the
pamphlet
kit,
yeah.
I took everything as a memory, and I still have it, but I lost my watch I got on Gumball, I lost the medal. I'm really sad about it.
No, I've got those things. I have the watch. You know what I'm really pissed off that I lost? It's got stolen from me in London. My Chinese driver's license.
I have that.
Because we stayed, they wouldn't allow us to drive without these driver's license. That's why we went to get driver's license.
It was a joke.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it was time to make jokes at that.
No, for sure. So yeah.
The whole driving experience, you know, you can thank me for bumping up the speed limit because they were driving us to. We had 3 cars, escorts in China. Ministry of Transportation, secret police or some type of police car, and the Ministry of Tourism. So you had 3 cars. The local police car would come up in every district that we crossed, and the Audis, they were black Audis, they would stay with us, you know, the entire trip. When we first started off, we were doing 120 kilometers. So 120, most of the cars that made it there were sports cars. and a Bugatti and the Phantoms and this. For the Lamborghini, 100 kilometers is first gear. So now you're talking about a speed.
First gear?
Yeah, first gear. From 0 to 100, first gear. After that, second gear. So I'm on first gear all the time. This is not good to drive 1,000 miles on first gear.
Can you not do it like low?
I'd go, if you go into third or fourth gear, it's gonna, you know, do these stutter things, and it's also not good for the car. So I started going up behind. I know the Audi can do 180 kilometers easy. This isn't. So I'm going behind, and I'm like revving and pushing him. I'm pushing him almost literally. I'm on his bumper.
And then you were flying, huh? I remember.
We're doing like 120, 100.
That's at one point.
No, and then you know there is a guy. What's his name? I forgot his name. They own hotels in San Diego. The hotel we stayed in, the American
Mike
guys.
with the two blonde
Right, Mike,
wives.
yeah. And his wife.
Mike something. The guy with all the surgery. Remember, he's all Botoxed out.
His brother. His brother, there was one guy, his wife was the Playboy model.
Yeah.
Mike, and his brother drove a 911 Turbo. His brother wanted to drive fast. And he said, I came here to drive fast, and I'm going to drive fast, and I don't care what these guys say. He was gone. So I figured after, 5 minutes, and Alawi was driving. He's like, Baba, come on, let's catch up with him. Come on, Baba, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, all right, fucking drive. I could see nice high. The best roads we drove were in China. In the world, I think. For that year, I don't know what they did. The Chinese, they were building up their infrastructure and stuff like this. The roads were fantastic. I mean, they're so smooth and no bumps and nothing. The car was just on the road going. So, okay, go. So we could see the Porsche and we're catching up with him. And we passed him. And then I got a call from Julie. If you guys don't slow down, they're not going to let you enter Beijing and your gumball is finished. And blah, 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 blah. She is just wailing on us. And I'm like, yeah, okay, we'll see you in the next stop. So we get to...
kept speeding.
We kept speeding, and then we got to the gas station. We pulled over in the gas station. We waited for everybody to catch up. So the guy, Mike's brother, he pulls up and, how fast were you going? You passed me. I was doing 190 miles per hour. And it was with me and Ilawi, we did 330 kilometers.
Ooh.
We actually broke the Lamborghini speedometer. We didn't break it, but we passed its pinpoint.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, enough Gumball. I think we could go for hours. There's so many.
Yeah.
There's
so many stories on Gumball.
Now there is also many other rallies. I've heard also good thing about other events.
Yeah, there's Gold Rush. There's
this One Life rally that
One Life.
One Life. Yeah, that's the Balkan states and many rallies. Anyway, I'm very grateful for Gumball because I met you guys and.
Oh, it's fun. I mean, it's like the Wacky Racers, kind of. You know the Wacky Racers? No. Wacky Racers is an American cartoon where they have Dick Dastardly. He drives with the dog. He laughs like that. It's a cartoon. Penelope Pit Stop. Anyway, they have like 10 racers, and it's a cartoon, and they do it's a crazy race. So but this isn't a race, but it's still crazy.
Gumball connected us, and then it became a great friendship. And by incident, we happened to live next to each other in
Cannes, in France.
Cannes, and we share this passion for cars, and we share many visions in common now for the market of Saudi Arabia. But
you were going around Masters of Dirt. We're the Masters of Dirt. I'm like, what the crap? This guy's crazy.
So many people tell me that, like my filmers and stuff. People I work with since many years, they're like, yeah, I remember when I saw you first, all loud, massive dirt. Yeah, that's cute. But thank God I really, it really became a thing, and I could make my hobby,
your business,
my business, and I'm feeling so blessed. But I wanted to touch base on the driving tips of the Sheikh. We were driving to Formula 1 in Jeddah. And you drive your Cayenne Turbo,
Yeah.
I think, like a go-kart, and then you fake change lanes so people let you in, and you told your son Aboudi, you said, Aboudi, never use indicators.
Yes.
Listen to me. You never use an indicator. And I'm like, it's an interesting thing to say to your 15-year-old son. And then what is the 2 most important driving tips for Saudi?
The 2 most important driving tips. Well, I have a few. Well, I don't like to use a signal. And I tell people not to use a signal because when you use your signal, people don't give you access. They actually jam your position. So if you wanted to signal from, and this is really not on a left turn and a right turn, okay? It's on lane changing is when I say don't use your signal. Because once you give that signal and say you want to get into the lane, the guy was either not there or he starts to speed up to make the move, or so it's personal thing. I don't know why you signal and people just they don't let you in the lane. Rarely where you find a person that will say yes, go ahead. Rarely. I haven't seen in the world, not just Saudi Arabia. I mean, I see it all, and I drove all around the world. So as soon as you use the signal, he decides not to let you in.
And then there is when someone doesn't let you in, and you see he's stubborn, you fake swerve, right?
No. It's called the fake. It's I don't know. My friends started naming these moves, so they have names now. So there's one move, it's the fake, where you it looks like you're gonna run into him. They're side by side, cars are side by side. You want to make the right, you want to go into the right lane. You gave your signal, let's say, and the guy started to clamp up, and he's not letting you give you access. So what do? You have to pick a car, if you want to do this, let's say, safely. So pick a victim, and then you go drive up to him a little bit. You kind of pass him. It starts, and you make a cut. You cut and go back, right? That's why it's a fake. It's like in basketball. It looks like you're gonna do the shot, but you don't. So this is the same thing. You cut him off, but you pull back not to cause him to go into an accident. And his immediate reaction is he's gonna slam on his brakes, and then you cut him off. Then you go into the lane.
Smart move.
But you have to be quick about these things, because the people, when you cut them off, you do these moves, they're pissed off now, and they want to drive up to you and give you the finger and flip you off, or you see a lot of high beam, low beam action. But you should be 3-4 cars ahead of the guy that you just did this move. So I learned a lot of moves because I drove in the pilgrimage here in Saudi Arabia. When we had the pilgrimage, old times, you took your cars. Actually, before old times, people walked or took camels as the caravan that's going to drive you from, let's say, Jeddah to Mecca. And then Mecca, you have 12 kilometers around Mecca of these holy sites that become significant during this time, right? So you have like this mass, 2 million people, 3 million people, going from one spot to another within 12 kilometers at the same time. They leave, they get up, they sit down, all at the same time. So the traffic is crazy. And for you to get from lane to lane, now that's a challenge. And that's where I learned a lot of these techniques, because the bus drivers, they use them, right? One of them was like the guy behind us wasn't letting the car go in. Right, so the traffic is just bumper to bumper, and they're just moving, nudge. So how are we going to figure out how to let him in? It's like we delayed our start. Like the traffic moved, so we left a gap between us and the guy in front of us, and then we jumped it. So he's a truck, so So he's not going to be able to accelerate as fast. So our car, the second car, slipped in behind us, and we managed to, you know, keep our two-car trail, you know. If you break off, you get lost. This lane moves, this one doesn't. 2 hours later, you're in a different area. So
driving here in Saudi Arabia is actually very liberal. It's like water floating. You do not use your indicator. You cut off. You go right. You go left.
I mean, it's been.
It's really cool. I mean, for me in Europe, you know, you have section controls. You go into a section, they take a photo. If you're out of the section too quick, you get fined. You cannot pass on the right. People are there. You cut someone off, you get into a fight. It's like very, very different, and driving here is very.
It's getting regulated. Like we have speed cameras now. We didn't have them
and
before.
And the fine, I got flashed in an M4.
Here?
Yeah, here at 10:33, and I'm like, oh look, so keep it in mind. It was 10:33. If you get the fine, it was me. Not 12 days later. No 12 hours later. The fine was on the phone. It's absolutely crazy. And it is getting regulated, but until then...
and there's more traffic. I mean, a lot of my driving was brand new roads. You're talking now, let's say, I mean, my crazy driving started in 1980 to 1982. The oil boom for Saudi Arabia was 78, right? One of the first projects the governments did here was the roads. So this Medina road that you're driving on, after the airport, which this is the new airport also, okay, there was nothing. Nothing. You know where the Formula One track is? Nothing. There was the house. Remember when I told you these are my cousin's houses and the track is right on their yard? Their house was desert all the way to Medina Road. The King Road wasn't there.
Malik Road.
Malik Road, right. That's it. In English, it's the King.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. So
so when we drove, it was empty. One of my things to do was to drive every night when I was here in Jeddah, go past the airport, make sure I do the maximum speed of the car, come back. That was my good night. Every night.
It's really cool driving. So basically, what I want to tell the world, and this is it's not a strategic thing or saying, it's really my feeling, is that I want to take people's perception of what Saudi Arabia is out of their heads, because people think, also, you know how many times, like, even people, educated people, travelers, they're like, so all the girls are covered, right? And be careful that you don't get beheaded. And I've been to so many places where I felt really uncomfortable, and I'm not here. I feel very welcome. People are very nice. People are opening. The entertainment is opening up. The Formula One is here. I think
it's a crazy time for Saudi. I mean,
it must
exciting.
have been very different back in the day.
Locked up. The best word to describe it was this. I mean, it was like an oyster. Okay, that's a nice example. You know how the oyster looks from the outside? Looks like rubbish. In the inside, the mother pearl and the shining and the colors and the pearl is there, and you know. But we went through, and the Crown Prince said this, you know, we went through 30 or 40 years that was just, it was awkward, you know. You're going through a modernization, but you're keeping cultural habits that are only appropriate, let's say, in certain time and in a certain area, okay? Like if you're in the desert camping, then yes, you might need to cover up all your women and make sure you're protected and nobody comes in, nobody goes out. But when you're a country, you know, this is a different ballgame altogether. So we did a quantum leap. But this quantum leap was not from where we were into the future. It brought us to present day. Okay, like people going in, or you came in with an electronic visa. I can't believe it.
Took me 2 hours.
Yes. I mean, now, if I want to go to America, I still have to go to the consulate and have a meeting in person, and they keep my passport for 10 days, and they do all of this shebang with it.
Very unfriendly at immigration and make you feel very uncomfortable.
Yes,
where are you going? Where are you staying?
Yes, yeah.
And this is to me like a white guy, and not an Arab guy. Whereas since 9/11, it's ridiculous what they do with
personally,
people,
I've never had
from countries like that.
Yeah.
Also, DJ Mosaken, he said the other day he got stuck 8 hours in New York. 8 hours in a room.
I did get stuck, but it wasn't. Look, the negative experience you get with these immigration officers is how you behave. Okay, you have to understand that they're trying to provoke you in one way or another. Especially, I mean, I don't know for Austrian, but Middle Easterner coming into the U.S. after 9/11, then you just be patient, because they're trying to piss you off. They're trying to get a reaction out of you, and you're going to America. Don't go if you don't want hostilities, or you're afraid of something. Don't go. But I had a lot of interest in the States, and I love America. So I was going. I went after 9/11. And unfortunately, I got a FIN number, a finger identification number, plugged into my passport. So every time I went after that, until I passed the age of 45, because he told me, I didn't know about this, I suspected that there is an age and that there is a thing, but I never had a confirmation until the immigration officer told me. He's like, okay, congratulations, you don't have to go through this anymore because you passed the age requirement. I'm like, what age? It's like after 45, we don't stop. Because every time I went into the U.S., I had to go into the secondary zone. And in the secondary zone, it depends on how many people are in there. If 20 people are in there, you're going to be there for a long time. It's like 10 minutes per person. That's 200 minutes, right? 20 minutes per person, you're 5. That's immediately 100 minutes, so that's 2 hours, right? If there's one officer, and they love it, they all are on a lunch break. They're drinking coffee, this, that, while you're waiting there. they want you to react.
Well, here in Saudi, what they did is...
No, here with the opposite.
Welcome to Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, because I really hate that experience in America. And I come there and I'm really nice and still, like you say, they want to provoke you and so on and so on. And on the streets, people, welcome to Saudi Arabia. Yeah. Everyone is smiling. No one is fed up of the tourists yet. I have the impression.
But also it's in our culture. Arabs are this way. Muslims are this way. The hospitality, the guest coming in, he's I don't want to say sacred, but close, right? If you get somebody, you open your house, there's 3 days. We have this thing with 3 days. There's a 3-day hospitality period where, this is your guest, you feed him, you take care of him, and this and that. And after the 3 days, you figure out, okay, what do you want? Where are you going?
Also, if whoever comes.
Yes, this is in our culture. It's a Bedouin, Islamic, people of the sea, Indonesia, Pakistan. You go all around the world. You go into a Muslim house, and this is part of our religion. The thing about the Islamic religion, if I just branch off, it's not it's a way of life. Okay, it's not just praying and going to the mosque and coming back from the mosque, and it's way more than that. Actually, that is like secondary. Okay, let's say the first. If I want to get into religion, but I love to talk about religion. It's part of our culture, so I do want to highlight, because people get a lot of confused ideas and messages and thing. And about Islam, it's you have the first thing is belief in God. The second thing, the second most important thing is your relationship with your parents, right? And I would say the third most important thing is your manners, how you behave with people. The belief in God incorporates all of your praying and, you know, and all of these things. But if you're, say, like a praying person, you pray, 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 and then you cheat, lie, and steal, and you're, you know, nasty, and you swear all the time, and this, then you're not where you are, okay, where you think you are, because a religious person has to behave, you know, properly with decency and respect and humanity and civility and, you know, all these things. So
now it makes a lot of sense. So when you welcome people, it's not like you're like, no, I have to do it because it's culture. It's like you want
to do it, yes, and you like to do it.
Yes.
It's
a hobby. It's fun. Right?
It's you know, this is the way we are, and we
thank God.
Yes, yes. Islam. Well, that's the thing about the religion. It's supposed to raise your humanity, not degrade it, right? So these concepts that aren't shared between, like, you get all the women are covered and the covered women, and well, we do. I mean, I met a lady in London, and at the time my daughter Ola was 10 years old or something, and she was wearing her veil when she was younger. She wanted to as a child because
just to cover
the hair, yeah. And that's the Islamic requirement. Let's say the Islamic requirement is something like what a nun would wear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She doesn't have to, not exactly, but what's covered of the woman is everything is covered except her face and her hands. Okay, that's the religious requirement. And so Ola was wearing a scarf, you know, a bandana around her hair, and she's covered. And an English woman went by. We're in London. And she's playing, and she said, you know, why do you force your daughter to cover up and you know, wear all of these things? It's a hot day, and the kids are playing, and, you know. And I'm like, listen, you teach your children to take their clothes off and to be naked. We teach our children to cover up. You know, that's, we don't agree on, you know, nudity and you know. So I mean, it was a quick response from me to just, you know, keep her quiet, but it's a true response. So
I have a lot of stuff still on my list, but we need to make a short break because my computer is running out of juice and there's only 2. Okay, so we are back with the Sheikh.
All right,
Sheikh Gumball.
I dropped the gumball in the later years. After I stopped doing the gumballs, I figured I'll just shift to the Sheikh. And I did a cannon run. Cannon run. That was, it was actually quite nice. It was very intimate. But this guy's name is Jay Cannon, and he does the cannon run. His last name is Cannon, so
makes sense.
And it's very convenient with the Cannon Run, because there's the movie, The Cannon Run. And I met him through Butsy, right? Butsy called me up while I was in London. It was late August or something like this, or early September. He told me, do you want to drive a Ferrari F12 around the UK? And I'm like, sure. He's like, okay, it's 5,000 pounds for the car, and the rally was 2,000 pounds. So I took the F12 for 4 days and 5 nights or something. We went to, it was Butsy and I, and we drove around Ireland, which is a gorgeous place.
Yeah, and nice, crazy people there.
And crazy people, beautiful beaches. I did donuts in the F12 on the beach in Ireland with a crowd of people on the beach. And when it started to get too close, I was like, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. And because you can hit a person or something like that.
Yeah,
you know? And their
like
mothers and
many,
children.
Many crazy rallies, and Man, Butsy, that guy
But
pulls chicks. It's crazy. How many chicks Butsy Butler pulls. But that we need to push that for our
that's a different
episode.
topic.
That will fill a full episode. But we'll keep that for, inshallah, second episode we do together. I want to come back to the subject of Saudi being an amazing place. It makes a lot of sense what you said about the culture. Now I understand, because I it's like, how come, it's what I tell everyone, like, you come here, you say, thank you that I can stay here, and people look at you almost offended. What do you mean, thank you? This is your house.
Yes.
I've heard this.
That's very, across the board you'll see this.
Yeah.
Your house, this is your place, this is your, enjoy it, spend time here. And you'll get this greeting from a lot of the Muslim people will do this.
No, so I can just recommend everyone.
All the Muslims
come to Saudi.
This.
Come to Saudi.
Yes, please.
It's beautiful. It has beautiful people, beautiful souls, and a great mindset.
And the covering up for women. This thing is. I mean, it was enforced. It was enforced.
It wasn't like that back in the day, because
no,
I saw
of course
pictures
not.
from the 60s or something.
Well, this is
look.
It's a different time. Look, when you were in the 60s and the Westerners were coming in for the first time, a lot of Americans, a lot of British people, they were dressing as they dressed, but also at the time the dress was more conservative. I mean, they weren't going around mini skirts and going out in the market like this. They had longer skirts, and they had, some of them were short sleeves, but some were long sleeves, and it was more conservative even in Europe, I think. Well, no, the 60s they had the hippie movement, and that was kind of, but that was a break from conservative.
Have you been a hippie?
Have I been a hippie? Well, let's say bohemian. Like I like this bohemian style of life. You know, kind of not a free for all, but just liberal and.
You already you studied in the States, correct? Some of your children are born in the States, and already your grandfather.
I'm a grandfather, no.
Excuse me. Already your father studied in the States.
My father, yes. Yeah. My father. On that generation, they were giving Saudi scholarships. This is after the oil. So you're talking the 40s and 50s. They were just, anybody who wanted to study abroad got a government scholarship. The government would pay for it. They'd pay for your wife. They'd pay for your children. A lot of universities. England, the States, Europe, mostly Europe and the States, mostly the States. But some people went to France, the UK. The UK, the education system wasn't comparable to Saudi, so it was easier for kids to go to the US. There was the American University in Beirut, which was very well established university, but still is high ranking. And so my father studied in the graduated high school here, and then he went to the American University in Beirut. He got his bachelor degree in, I think, probably business administration or economics, probably. He went to the U.S. in the American University in Washington, D.C., and he studied his master's degree. I was already born. I was... So I was in the States very young. Let's see, I probably went when I was 3 or 4. And then I went into... My sister was born in the States. I went to grade school. By the time my dad finished his PhD, we're in Colorado University. And I was 7. He finished, I was 8. Back in Saudi Arabia at 8 years old. An American boy. Didn't speak a word of Arabic. I understood like hints of the language. Not
I feel you.
And let's see, and I was going into 3rd grade, which was really difficult. for me, because I didn't speak Arabic. I mean, you don't speak Arabic, you go into first grade, you kind of can get away with it. So I had a private tutor that summer to prepare me to speak Arabic, which was so hard. And I had so many stories and incidents with this guy. Most patient teacher ever, until I slapped him in the face and he walked out and left me.
No way.
He got so frustrated, he put his hands on my neck and he started shaking me, like, not violently, but, you know, just like, you know, kind of like these things. So I just turned around, 8-year-old kid, slapped the teacher in his face. He was stunned. He just stood up, walked out. I never saw him again. Which was, I guess, my objective as an 8-year-old kid getting summer schooled in to learn Arabic. That was like so hard.
So, but those were, I mean, your dad was a minister, right? And he has achieved so much. I'm always so, when I walk around, you know, the houses in Cannes, and here I'm like so astonished, and I'm like, wow, he's such a boss. And you can still feel now, I think he's in his 80s, and when he's there, you feel the presence and the respect, and you just know
well, also this, I mean,
he's responsible for all this, this family.
Absolutely.
Like my dad, he started from
well, these guys,
from the bottom, right?
They start from scratch. Yeah. I mean, we go by, and you know, if you go in the old parts of town, so not anymore, but you know, a long time ago, and you see kids playing barefoot in these side alleys that are dirt, and they're sweaty, and the dirt's like muddy on their feet and stuff like that, and they're, you know, torn up clothes, or you know, not even just what we. And he would tell me that was me when I was 7 and 8 years old, and I'm like, oh wow. And the mud houses, if you went to the old historic city in Jeddah, those mud houses, they're clay. Let's say it's not really mud house, but they're built from coral stone, because they take the coral reef and they break it up into like bricks and stuff, and they mortar it with mud, and then they put layers of, you know, mortar on top and paint, and you get these stone houses. And they were designed in some like ways. I mean, it looked nice. We still have some of them still standing. But then, you know, sometimes the houses would tilt, and, you know, depending on who built it, and the staircases were never even. You know, there's a short step and a high step and a flat one, and, you know, depending on the rock you got. So, and my dad lived in those houses, and it's not like it's one family per floor, let's say. And if it's 3 stories, then like maybe the father or the grandfather was in one floor, and then his son with his family is in another, and you know, the other son with his other family is in another floor, and the kids all slept on the roof. They'd put out their just mattresses or whatever, and in the summertime, and then they have like mosquito nets, and they sleep out on the roof, and then they everybody's sharing one bathroom. So this is a hard life. It's not easy.
Mm-hmm. And
so he worked from 12 years old. He had to go to work. Wow. You know, wake up in the morning, go to the vegetable market. He's writing for somebody, you know, taking notes. He gets 1 coin for doing that.
My dad collected newspapers for 10 groschen. That's like the lowest, like cent.
Yeah.
One newspaper, 10 groschen, and handed in packs of newspapers, and got money for that. And my grandma worked in a bakery, so it was from a very, very poor background. And then it's really self-made. For me, it's different. I'm like gold spoon fed, you know.
Exactly. Our whole generation is like that.
But my dad he's very strict. He's very old-fashioned with money. He's like, watch your money, flip every coin, don't overspend. He never gave me a lot of money and so on. But what people's perception, Georgie, he has everything from his dad anyway. He never accomplished. You know, you're always judged in a situation like this. But
I call their generation in Arabic. There's a word. It's karf.
Karf?
Karf is it's hard. It's hard living.
Plus, it was post-war.
Right.
So
you don't work. Then you eat dust. We call this kul turab in Arabic. If you don't do it, then just eat dirt. So
and your dad then became communication minister, right, for 3
no,
kings
then
in
he
a row, or
yeah. Well,
which
when
is a
they
huge
came back,
accomplishment.
his generation was this, right? A lot of the family self-made. He was a T-boy. He was a rider for the customs officer. He was some jockey for doing some errands. I mean, the wealth, there was no wealth. What wealth are we talking? You're talking about basically an economy built around the pilgrimage, okay, Mecca and Medina. And you have merchant families to support this. And Mecca is the hub of the Islamic world, so there's always people coming in and out. Always.
Trading back
Always,
in the day, right?
yes. Trade, education, knowledge, whatever, culture. I mean, and you see that here, this part of Saudi Arabia, we have food from all over the world. We have Indonesian food, Pakistani food, Indian, all the Muslims. The Muslims' dream is to come to Mecca or Medina or even the Holy Land. I mean, how do I see this when I go to other Islamic countries? The way they treat me, it's alarming to me because when I went to Turkey to visit the mosque, the guy wanted to kiss my feet. Can you imagine?
Really?
Because I'm from the Holy Land.
And you walked on the Holy Land. Right?
I mean, I'm like, please, man, just. Thank you, but pick yourself up and don't do this. Not for me, especially because I was coming from the night before we were in Istanbul. Don't bow to my feet. I'm coming to see the mosque. So that shows how the Muslims regard Saudi Arabia.
And then so when you were young. And you were here in town. Did you get to meet the kings?
Yeah, I met King Fahd. I met all of them actually because it was, and then also it was look. Just imagine it's a simple country. Then they discovered oil. Now we're upgrading our whole infrastructure. Okay, this is in the 70s. What was the population then? 7.5 million, 8 million. This is how we're growing, right? So as big as Austria, a little bit bigger than Austria. So you're not talking about a lot of people.
Not 9
right?
million we have now. 9 million Khawajas.
And then, and so also the royal family, they were younger, The king, the present king now, he was in his 30s probably, and this was all happening. And so everybody's growing up together kind of thing, and you're bringing in all of these new things and new industries, and then you have a religious movement that's resisting, this modernization. It's a lot of kind of like the church in medieval times, and how they took some different stance. I'm not using just as how they resisted the change.
Did your dad got some crazy presents from the king, like you?
Well, my dad was
a Westerner, like.
He's got the honorary degree of the highest honor that you can give to a non-royal.
From many countries, I saw.
Yes, and he has because he did
Korea.
Yeah.
And so on and so on.
Korea, France. France, he's man of the year. Not man of the year. They have a ribbon. It's like being sirred or knighted or something like that. They give you these official what's the word I'm looking for? Well, it's an honor, just to get it. So But his work, see, being the Minister of Telecommunications, and at the time, my dad came back, all of these kids that I'm saying, the generation of workers, really. I mean, these guys just 24/7, they're building, they're learning, they're hungry for it, right? So it's a drive, it's a momentum. You have nothing and you want everything. Just imagine, right? And many of our old companies, they're this way. You know, they built the first roads, they built the first mosque, they just grew and grew and grew, and now they're huge conglomerates around the world. So, and then that was my father's role was the Minister of Telecommunications. He came back, he got into postal services. They assigned him as Deputy General of the Postal Services. And then you're lucky if the mailman picked up your letter, yet alone to deliver it. Okay, so that was the state of the postal services. And he came in with all of these American university ideas and deliver in 24 hours and service, and management by objective is one of his famous words. And he reshaped the postal services, and it became the talk of the town, where you actually are sending your letter and you get it the next day. Wow, that was just mind-boggling for Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
And that was like in the 80s. And then he, at the time, the ministry was the Ministry of Transportation, that included everything. So they split the Ministry of Transportation, and they made a new ministry for telecommunications, and they used post, telephone, and telegraph. I think like the French, they say the PTT, or in Europe they say PTT. So it was that. So my father was the first minister appointed for that. And at the time, Egypt was the center of communications, actual communications. And Egypt is really decaying and old, and the systems are kind of 20 years old or something like that. And now Saudi Arabia is modernizing and starting to come up with being
this
the
is
hub.
back in the day.
Yeah, this is in the 80s. So there was some important projects. There's a cable that connects Australia to America, and physical cable that goes under the ocean, and it's supposed to connect in Egypt. And my father got them to connect it in Saudi Arabia, just in fact, because we're modernizing our entire communications network. It doesn't make sense to go through Egypt that's 20 years old. You want to go through Saudi Arabia that's brand new. And it was a no-brainer for the communications satellite committee, something, this is the underwater cable connection.
There is, I saw nowadays they have these Ethernet or fiberglass cables that connect everywhere through the ocean. There's huge ships. I saw a documentation.
Well, that's it. That's it. They have to maintain it, and they have to hub it, and they have to have switches in the middle. Some country has to pick up this thing, and they get a little revenue from it. And my dad took that one. And the next one was the microwave system, where we started to put all these microwave towers around the country to get car phones and increase your network capability. And then and satellite communications. We have, like, if you go on your way outside of Jeddah, you'll see like a satellite station that we had the first, I'll never forget this, it was the first video phone call. And King Khalid was talking to the prince of the eastern region, Prince bin Jalawi, I think, and he was watching him on TV. And we have a photo in our house. The king is on the phone with his mouth open like this, and my father standing behind him, telling him to speak in the phone.
I know.
And you can see him in the picture of the TV.
Wow.
Everybody was like, you can see and hear at the same time on the TV, and you're talking to him on the phone. And that was just like, wow, we're going to go to the moon next,
So crazy.
So my dad was at the time also the ministers would you get appointed, and rarely you get dismissed. Like you have to do something bad to get dismissed or something like that. So he was a minister for PTT for 21 years.
But
Right.
usually a new king comes, changes all the ministers or not?
It depends, yeah.
Like they
Of
come in
course.
with their group.
With all their people and the staff, but the ministers stayed because they were. And our kingdom works different because it's from brother to brother. So, that's part of the change now. We're probably seeing from father to son, like Europe sees it. Now we're seeing this in our new crown prince. So this is a huge change.
Does a great job, MBS, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's different when you rule with a thinking head of a 80-year-old man than when you rule with the head of a 30-year-old man. It's completely different.
Did you have privileges back in, like, could you do whatever you want, or?
Well, yes and no, but the parents were different. Even no matter who you were, you do what you want. I don't know. Very few people that I knew could do what they want because our parents were strict. Even like I was saying, my father's generation is a generation of workers. I would say our generation was change, because I lived in a room with my grandparents when we first came back. So my entire family is in a room living among. My aunt was in the other room with her kids for a while. My other uncles were in other rooms. We're living in my grandparents' room. That was the first year coming back from the States. Then I lived in a 2-bedroom apartment in Riyadh for 3 years. Then we started to see the oil boom and all of this. And Saudi's now starting to develop. So we moved to a house, a home. We built it. My dad built his own house, and this was
Is this the house in Jeddah?
No. This is way before this is in Riyadh, and let's say everybody had their own bedroom with their own bathroom, ensuite. So now we're starting to see the wealth and the standard of living going up. And maybe this is the time when you came to Saudi Arabia and you saw everybody had a Mercedes. Right? So many Mercedes around the country, you think you're in Germany or something. Right? I mean, you would see Caprices, the Chevrolets, the top of the model. Everybody had a decent car, let's say. And everybody had some money, and everybody had a land. Because the government was giving out lands, they're giving out loans, they're giving out money. Get married, get a home, get loans, and they're not going to collect. That was the understanding.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay? It's a loan and you signed it and everything, but they'll never. And then sometimes the king pardons. The king pardons everybody from their loan. Wealth, oil, and
still now you'd like get what I hear 2 billion per day from oil, and you guys keep searching for water, but you keep finding oil.
Oh, that's the joke, and it's probably true. I mean, we pay for water, so there's that flip side.
The empty quarters, it's over 2,500 kilometers, I think, of only desert.
Which is quarter. It's a quarter of Saudi Arabia, of area. So Saudi is like 2.2 million.
There's probably dunes
square
no
meters.
one has ever set foot on.
For sure. But there are people who live those areas.
It's a very unforgiving area, though.
Oh, of course. But I thought we'd have like a rally or something, or some crazy event there. I've been you can go to Najran, which is a town that's on the border. It's south, and it's very close to Yemen. It's a hot spot now, and it's inwards. It's in the desert, and you see spectacular skies there.
Yeah, we were on the Saudi Arabian border. We did I think for Jeep, spent 4 days in the desert, and when it's so dark around you,
yeah, the skies just
they're so beautiful. And then we had this German guy, a filmer, really nice guy, a freak, could tell me everything about stars and how far it is away and how small we are.
Oh yeah.
It's
minuscule.
Crazy. Yeah. No, and we cannot even imagine.
When I was in Najran for the first time, I saw the Milky Way with my just pure, the naked eye, as they say. You just look up in the sky and you can see the Milky Way, and I can say, oh, okay, that's why they call it the Milky Way, because it looks like somebody poured some milk down the road. In Arabic, we call it Darb al-Tabbana, which means the road. Darb means the path or the way, and Tabbana, where you get a lot of dust and horses and tibin, and it looks like a dust trail, the sky and the stars. It looks like a dust trail like this. It's quite amazing. So I get into a little bit of the astrology and astronomy. I like it.
Yeah, I would love to, but it's so crazy.
It's
like
in depth.
The closest stars is like so far. Like you would take, I don't know how many light years to get there, and then the whole thing would still look the same, the Milky Way, because it's so far away.
Yeah.
And
crazy.
And if it might have exploded already, but we don't see it yet, and like that. I mean, it's unfortunately something I don't really can cope with on a understanding scale. But yeah, I mean, now we're in Saudi. I'm in Saudi. I'm learning the language. I'm loving it.
Great.
Really, thank you so much for the hospitality and
in Europe at the time of the spread of this Islamic empires. So let's say from 600 to 1100 AD, a little bit after that, the Europeaners would pride themselves on speaking Arabic, right? Because it's such a complex language. Arabic is and very expressive. Like we'll have 360 names or more for the lion.
And yet still everyone's called Muhammad.
Yeah, well, that's the most popular name because of the Prophet, of course. Well, there's beliefs behind this, the name, if you name your child Muhammad, he is visited every day by 70 angels that come just to see his well-being, So the name carries a lot of, in Morocco, if this father names his son Muhammad, he does not call him by his first name in respect of the Prophet. You know how, like, in Korea, North Korea, they weren't saying the name of the guy. Mm-hmm. They weren't saying Kim, our beloved, most respected and leader. If you say his name, it's disrespectful, right? So we have that also in Arabic. So the father isn't gonna. They call him Si Muhammad, yani my master, but a slang for it, not the full word, right? So he's saying Si Muhammad. Sidi, yani my master. He's calling his son that in respect of the name, right? So there's a lot of respect, and we consider the Prophet our father, and he's your prophet as well. I always forget to think of it, because he's the last prophet.
Very similar our religions.
It's the same religion. It's not. It's the continuation. It's not a religion for the Christians and a religion for the Jews and a religion for the Muslims especially these religions, the three. This is one chain of prophets from one source delivering the same message. It's not a new message. And once it starts to become political, know that it's been tainted. It's been humanized. Because the religion has nothing to do with politics, and it has nothing to do with power or wealth. If you see a fat preacher with a lot of money, You know, just be wary. It could be true. I'm not saying that that's, but be wary because usually they don't combine in one person.
With I think religion is great because it gives so many people something to thrive to and give them safety and mental like something to believe in.
Well, you have to.
And you know how hard it is. I mean,
we believe
you probably know as well. Life's not always easy.
It's never easy.
Your head makes
in Arabic
things, you know?
we call it. It's the lower life. Hayat al-dunya. Haya is life, and dunya means world. But dunya also in Arabic is like this. It has there's a lot of other meanings related to the same word. You can name it something, but the meaning of the name has significance. So Hayat al-dunya, this is your lower life. Why is it lower? Because there's an afterlife. And the afterlife is more important because it lasts forever. It's infinite. This one that we live in here is finite, so it doesn't mean that much. We have also a lot of stories, religious stories, you know, mythology, where the angels are talking about this poor human who can't hold himself for less than a day, because we have in religion, in the phrases of the Quran, that one day is 1,000 years. Okay, one of God's days.
Oh yeah.
Okay, is 1,000 years of our life. So the angels are saying, you know, how come this human, and how long do you live? You live, say, for 100 years, for say. So that's 1/10 of God's days. All right, and the angels, they go by God's days. They don't go by our days. So the angel is saying, how come he can't hold himself for one fraction of a day from sin so that he goes into the heaven? What's wrong with this guy?
Makes sense. But yeah, to come back to the actual, like why I'm here, and it's kind of a reveal. People don't know what we've been brewing up.
Why you?
Me and Alawi. Alawi and me, because in German we say the donkey always mentions himself first.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things my dad annoyed me with for so many years.
Yeah.
Until I got it. You don't say me and Amro, it's Amro and me.
Amro and I.
Amro and I in the correct way. Exactly.
In English, I don't know how it is in German.
So Alawi and I, we are working on bringing the Masters of Dirt shows to Saudi Arabia, and we want to bring the biggest show in the world.
Yes.
Saudi style. You know how many times I've heard, how many riders you normally have in the show?
Riders. I love your Arabic accent when you're talking in Arabic and English.
and I say, 50, we want double.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, it's great because this vision of always the biggest, the best, the developing, you know, this shiny, it fits the shows, because at the end of the day we have done almost everything you can do in action sports, and you have to set
I remember you told me
Saudi
something
right for that.
That about your show, that whoever does a move, the other guy has to do the move with a flip or something. Like we call it flip progression. So back in the day, to like, I don't know, do the Superman, you know, where you fly on the handlebars and you fly behind the motorcycle, was huge. And now they put these into backflips. So they do the backflip, and in the backflip they do the super flip. And they mix, and the sports progresses. And so the sports will always progress. But to set new standards for a show, you need that. I mean, first of all, the monetary backup, you know, of being able to pull off such a huge show is extremely expensive, and you need the mindset to say, okay, we want to break records, we want to bring attention of international media, tourism, and so on. So we Alawi and we are making the Saudi Austrian Entertainment Company,
which will be a company that will source different acts from all over the world. Acts we already have, like Masters of Dirt or Shaolin or bike track building and much more. I don't want to take away too much before the homepage and everything launches. But yeah, I've decided to position myself here in Jeddah because we saw that it's extremely, I mean, the friendship, we spent a lot of time in lockdown together because your son was locked up with us in Austria. And
look how that worked out, man.
Yeah,
Before he was leaving, I told him, be careful, man. Now, if Europe goes haywire, you're going to get stuck. Oh, I want to go. No. Okay, so he went. He got locked in. And then you guys spent like a whole, what was it, a month and a half?
Yeah.
And you get in Austria, he's stuck. So luckily he's in Austria, not in Switzerland or somewhere where you guys wouldn't even spend time together.
No, it was amazing. So, but we figured out it's the best if we make an office in Jeddah and we really position ourselves in Saudi. So now we're bringing some riders here. Sayo, our photographer, was already here. We want to create content. And your vision, and thank you for that, was to look at the bigger picture, because people like BMX freestyle became an Olympic discipline. And it's the vision of Abdulaziz bin Turki is to get Saudi to move more and to get them on the international platform. So kids need to train, and there is no facilities yet. There is no bike schools yet. And Masters of Dirt was very rock and roll back in the day, but it became way more corporate and older, and to be actually a role model for kids.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to show your kids like, come at the after party and let's go drinking and ruin the wild lifestyle. You want them to get moving and find a purpose and be healthy and happy.
Yeah. And cycling does that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the cycling is booming. Normal cycling, jump, freestyle, mountain bike, downhill. There's so much. So and as I feel really.
And going back to I mentioned earlier, our Crown Prince. He gave us a quantum leap from the past to today, and now the next quantum leap, because this is also on his agenda, our Crown Prince, is that. He has the 2030 vision, and it's all set up that, and all of these goals that he wants to reach. But also, if you look at the cities that are being built, the high-tech, green, sustainable energy, these new concepts, and also going back to sports activities and opening up the country and letting people in, just that. So our next quantum leap, I think, will jump into. We're already, like the cities are, Saudi as a destination. Before we were I don't know if we were even on this. I mean, we were on it because we're a religious destination, right? And everybody has to come to Saudi Arabia for that, every Muslim. But we weren't on it because the kid in Austria wants to come and visit our cycling tour or something, or our bicycle parks, or that's not going to happen. And just to bring that kid in, it's really a logistic nightmare.
And also I have to say, I think I would rather consider myself a world traveler, and also a lot of people around me think Saudi is just dunes, but it's really And when we went to Abha, it was a cool climate.
Yeah.
There was canyons, like the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
There was mountains, crazy baboon, red-ass monkeys. But in like huge herds.
Yeah, of course.
And then I'm sure there's so much more to discover. Also for me.
Rich country. I mean, rich with history, historical artifacts. You've got some regions with 7,000-year-old history. In the middle of Saudi Arabia, the Al-Ula. If you go out of Al-Ula more, you go into Madian, Madain Salih. We have a lot of Moses, the Prophet Moses, and a lot of Jewish landmarks. I mean, I say this because we share the religion, we share the belief. So historically, you have art, you have different cultures you have, different tribal habits. I mean, the south of Abha, that region, they eat different. They look a little bit different. You know, their habits aren't the same as mountain person is not like a city person. He's not like a person in Jeddah, where Jeddah, we call ourselves the gate of the holy places. Well, the port is here, the airports are here, all these pilgrimages and Muslims are coming every year, year on, year out. Some of them want to live here forever. They bring their wealth and they establish themselves here, right? This is the Muslim's dream, My friends that are in other Islamic countries like Pakistan or India, they tell me, why do you live in Jeddah? Why don't you live in Mecca? Why don't you live in Medina? How can you leave those spots and I don't know, we just live in Jeddah, so it's a different perspective. But
no, it's really a great place, and there's so much to discover, and it will be opening up. And I say, like,
and we're very much natural.
In 20 years, people gonna be like, "What's Dubai?" Because
well, Dubai is
it feels totally different.
Well, yes, I mean it's one city, okay. It's about buildings and structures and events, okay, the air show, the boat show, for a long time, this is what drives Dubai as a city, besides, the rest. There's a lot of trade and merchant with Iran and India and Pakistan, and there's a lot of wealth going in Dubai from those countries because of their taxes and whatever. There's a lot of, there's a lot of big companies established in Dubai because they want to trade with India. That's very common, or with Iran. And on a trade basis, but if you go there as a tourist, it's a hot beach and an air-conditioned mall or hotel or this, nice restaurants, and you can drink if you like. But, that's the scene. So if you're tired of that scene or you don't want that scene, especially if I don't like to go to Dubai because it's just like Jeddah, so why am I going to go to Dubai? I don't find it, that attractive for myself.
Well, anyway, we're open for business here in Saudi.
That's great.
Europeans, please don't be scared that I won't come back home. I definitely will. But this is...
after he marries his 4 wives.
Inshallah. My dad pushes me anyway. He says, you need to do it like the Habsburger. The Habsburger where I think, I'm probably going to say some bullshit now, which isn't even true history, but I think the Habsburger were around the time of Maria Theresia. They're like a big tribe.
Yeah.
And they're the first ones to say we need to spread with making love and not war. So we need to spread in marrying different cultures.
Okay.
But let's see what God has in plan for me. For now, it's just
for us. It's
I want to build. I'm very eager. I have a very big drive of.
Great.
Because in Vienna, alhamdulillah, everything is established. I got a great team. Bless them. Thanks.
I saw your show in Vienna. Very nice. I saw it. What was it? 18.
2018. Yeah.
Is that when I showed? The organization,
the merchandise, everything is in place, and now I'm here, and it's like a startup. I'm grinding myself again, and we're building a team. We're hiring, and it's gonna be it's interesting but I'm turning 35 now. I wanted to have kids by this age, but now
why have kids?
Not connected. Not yet. I'm gonna have another kid to company. So anyway,
they're not connected. This thinking is not really
true, but first I will
correct.
A good wife.
Of course you have the wife
or wives.
Hey, that's the Islamic way, although it's been muted by the Western culture, because a lot of our Westernization here, it's also bringing in these concepts. So a lot of our families are like, no, you can't marry another wife. It is so it's gone a bit. Weary, but in a lot of our other segments of society, they marry 1, 2, 3, 4. We regard it as if you're gonna have. Look, the marriage is a sacred relationship, and sexual relationships are also sacred, right? So we don't believe in loose sex, let's say, right? So
Like
if you
open
want to have another woman, marry another woman,
okay.
and sustain the family and grow society, and don't hide her and don't hide your children from her. And that's not the concept.
Expensive concept, though.
No, because you find even in the poorest of the poors, they marry.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with money, nothing. And it's quite the contrary. I mean, if you're poor and you marry and you have more kids and this, it's more workforce for you. So, you bring in more income.
Well, Amro, it was such a pleasure. So much more stories. I'm happy to do a second one anytime.
Sure.
And really,
but on your vision in Saudi Arabia, I mean, it's so good that finally it's happened. I mean, I've had you begging to come to Saudi Arabia from probably the first time I met you in San Francisco. Butsy, the same thing, the first time I met him in 2009. I want to come to Saudi Arabia. Even when Butsy finally came this year also with this electronic visa, when he was coming, I told him, make sure you wear long sleeves. And he said, why? And I'm like, well, because your tattoos and everything, they might stop you in there. Well, really? Well, so what would they do to me? I'm like, well, if they see it, they're going to scrub it until it comes off. So, it's like, no. And I'm just tearing my eyes. I'm laughing so hard. And I'm trying not to show him I'm laughing.
Anyway, I wish you all the best. Let's stay happy and healthy, and I'll stay focused and push this
Great,
project.
Yeah. Because I want to see an Olympic Saudi riders and jumpers.
I want to see Saudi do a backflip.
For sure.
We have Rams coming in now, and Timmy Hopper is sponsoring us.
And training, and you put it in the right spot, and you throw a couple of shows, and a couple of school competitions, and a challenge down Asir Mountains. I mean, you saw how crazy those mountains are.
No, for sure.
Man, you'll just make a splash like never seen before, and then you go get the most famous. That was I liked about your show in Vienna. I wanted to allude to that, is the amount of kids that were riding bicycles.
Yeah.
And then when I finally went down to the stadium and looked at how high this thing was, these little kids, 12-year-old kid was going down this ramp, man. Holy smoke. Wow.
Yeah, crazy. Well, I could talk for hours. It's actually the longest podcast I've made so far. And it's still not boring. But let's go grab some food.
Yes,
thanks everybody
for sure.
For listening, and thank you so much, especially you, for your time and
Hey man,
hospitality.
I've been wanting to do this because I'm happy and proud and excited about what you guys are doing, and finally the opportunity is here. So take it and run with it, because this is going to be a smash. You'll see. You'll see. Inshallah.